All right. I had somebody ask me my opinion on the true reasons teachers are leaving the education field and the inability for schools to be able to fill those positions, specifically special education. There's parents. I mean, there's a lot of educators and administrators on this page. So I'd love your input with regards to what you guys are seeing to see if I'm smoking crack or whether I'm on point. But I made a list. I'm going to go through those and then I'll go back and sort of explain why I think that I'm going to try to do it in rapid succession. But, let's see. Anybody that's watched these videos know I can't do much in rapid succession. Okay, number one, high stakes testing. Politicization of education, especially in the last 8 years, politicization of our public education system. Zero tolerance discipline policies. Refusal to address student behavior, which I am not referring to special education per se, but I'm going to explain that in greater detail. Then compensation and value of teachers, which is tied largely to union established pay scales. But I wanted to talk about compensation. Then we got bad leaders in the form of administration who have no positive examples to follow and model in today's world. I shouldn't say. I shouldn't generalize. There are some good leader examples out there, but most of the ones that I'm thinking about nationally, we have a void currently of good leader examples, and so I think that as a result, we have a lot of administrators that don't know how to be good leaders. And now that's not an excuse; it's not a justification for being a bully and exerting the threats or violence, because that's what bad leaders do, and that's what I'm seeing a lot of the threats and bullying, and with regards to education that runs educators out. And see, I stopped, and instead of going through my list, I already answered that one. So let's continue with my list. Introduction of police and over security that then removed community contact and parental involvement, which has reduced the level of transparency within the schools. It's reduced parental access to our schools. And as a consequence of this over security, which is what I'm calling it, and the introduction of police, it makes parents feel as though they're not welcome. It also makes parents feel that somehow the school perceives them as a threat. And when you have a combination like that, whether it's intended or not, parents begin to retract, and they're not as involved. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's a negative when there's this reaction that then creates an opposing reaction as well. And, that is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing teachers wondering why the hell parents aren't getting more involved. Now, there's some that the teachers are like they're too involved and not necessarily in a positive. But on the whole, we're seeing a decrease in parental involvement. But I'm attaching that to this overall feeling that we're not welcome in our schools. And there's a growing lack of transparency, which goes along with my last one, is that due to the introduction of the oversecurity and the lack of transparency and the lack of openness of the schools, that less parents feel connected and involved and aren't helping educate or discipline their kids. And that's a real consequence. And when I say that they're not helping educate or discipline, what I'm saying is as a parent and from a parent perspective, if you're not connected with your school, and if you don't feel connected to the people responsible for educating your child, then at that point, you don't feel like you have any kind of skin in the game. And then at the same time, because you don't feel like you're wanted and you don't feel like you understand what's going on, then at that point, you're not a partner in the discipline aspect of your child either. And in fact, what you tend to do is over scrutinize the actions of the teacher or the principal in disciplining your child. Not because you want your child to have bad behavior or show disrespect, but it's one of those things to where because you're not actively involved and you don't know what's going on, then you're taking a position of wait and see. I'm going to wait and see what's going on because I don't know these people, and I'm not going to sit there and be a bad actor for my child and act like I can't defend my kid, because you don't want to send that message either per se, because there are some bad teachers and bad administrators out there, and that are bullying kids. It happens. And so parents are sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, just like our teachers are caught between that rock and a hard place. Something's got to give. And so, we got to sit there and bring the community back together. We got to connect teachers and parents again so that there's some buy-in. And that's two of the reasons. And I think teachers are just like, I don't have parents that are willing participants anymore. But I'm not blaming the teachers as much as I blame this devolution of school openness and school transparency for those reasons. And I think statistically, the risk of any kind of school shooting or whatever you want to call it is highly, highly low. Highly low. That doesn't sound right. What I'm saying is the risk is extremely low comparative to what the damage we're doing with regards to the response. Okay, going back. The reason I put high stakes testing is because we've stripped, and this goes along with teacher compensation as well, and the politicization of education, and inserting that along with zero tolerance. The reason I believe that that's driving teachers out is that it's stripping their ability to teach. You know, and teachers get into the field because they're passionate about teaching. But if you're having to teach toward a test and it's all high stakes testing because of Every Student Succeeds Act and No Child Left Behind before that, then at that point that's stripping you of your autonomy as a teacher to help guide students in the way and in the instructional path that you feel comfortable and passionate about. And and then education's not exciting for the students either. And at that point, it's just information going in one and out the other, and you're just preparing them to take a high stakes test that has nothing to do with the students and everything to do with the school report card, which is important to nobody but the principal and the administration, which of course then ties into community values. There's a whole set of problems that come along with that high stakes testing. I think it's done way more damage than good, and it should be done away with and let our teachers teach again. But that goes along with compensation. We should be paying our teachers way more than we are, but we need to sit there and get away from connecting it to some union set value. We need to start valuing our teachers as to what they bring to the table and reward innovativeness and reward that passion and reward that excellence. And we really need to pay our special educators and parent support staff way more than we are because of the heavy lifting that's required and the bulk of the work and meticulous expertise that's required. And I think it needs to be connected with competency training and everything to raise, because colleges are failing us in preparing our special educators. So a lot of that extra compensation should be tiered according to ranges of competency on the additional training that would be available after they get out of college. But that's what I believe there. Okay, that would solve a lot of these problems. And then the last one is refusal to address student behavior. The reason that I put that in there is it's not special education. And I hate it when everybody blames special education or 504, because we have instructional guidance for least restrictive environment for kids that are impeding the learning of others and causing these kind of problems. And, these kids, as long as it's data driven and attempts are made, and it's even minimal attempts are made to try to make the environment appropriate, it doesn't take long to sit there and move the child along the continuum of alternative placements to more restrictive settings. All right. So any excuse that, it's all, kids with disabilities causing these behavior problems and nobody will take care of it. That's the problem with administration or teachers that are incompetent and ignorant of this process and the law. Okay. Because if they were competent, they would understand the process and they would move along that line very quickly, regardless of parent complaint. Okay. Because data is data. Yeah, you can sit there and complain all you want, but if there was a minimal effort made and it was data driven, then it's just not an appropriate environment for your particular child if they made those efforts. Okay, so I don't want to hear it's the special education kids and the behavior. If that's happening in your school, then that's an administration incompetence issue. Okay, that's it. So that's not who I'm talking about because we have a defined process for that. I'm talking about the kids without diagnoses or without disabilities that due to environmental factors are just acting out and nobody's doing anything about it. They're becoming violent. They're becoming mouthy in class, totally disrespectful, and nobody will do anything about it. That might go along with some of the politicization that's going on in school to where there's this feeling that everything has an ideological bent, regardless of what the community may feel and what might be popular or socially popular at a time. Okay, because we've lost control in a lot of our schools, and it's driving a lot of our teachers and administrators out of the field because nobody will do anything about it. And these aren't special education identified children. And so, something needs to be done there. And what I don't like is I don't like that our special education kids are being blamed on a lot of these social media channels by teachers that run these social media accounts. I think it's absolutely unfair, and that is not what I'm seeing. And them making these statements and declarations is pure ignorance on their part. And they I wouldn't expose my ignorance like that. Be educated before you get on TikTok and want to trash special education kids without addressing where our real problem is. And that is just environmental general education kids that are running the farm and they shouldn't be. So something needs to happen there. But unfortunately, a lot of these schools have just been completely immobilized. They just refuse to act, and it's becoming an intolerable environment for our teachers. Okay, that's my opinion.